day, black in the night. Stripes in our veins, sparks gonna fly. The beast is awake, orange, black and white. Cause when the jungle come alive, who day we ignite and Cincinnati, we gon' rise and in the jungle we unite and dripping orange and black and white. Who day when we fight, live and die in these stripes. Wake up the beast, every game day is a feast. Time to bust it off the leash. In the jungle dripping heat, tigers strike the city streets. East side stand up, west side stand up. If you reppin' who day, time to put your hands up. Bingo stripes, we in it. New day, new age, yeah, we get it. Cincinnati jungle fitted. Blue day in our house, we win it. Orange and black and white, we build it. Earn our stripes, you know we kill it. Bleed our colors, jungle dripping. Nasty, natty, yeah, we lit it. Lit the crowd, get the city loud. Yeah, we feasting now. Fit the bounce, make the city howl. Now we beastin' now. Thunder through the tunnel, from the sideline to the huddle. Stripes be tatted on the jungle when we flex that who they muscle on them. Stripes, Cincinnati, we gon' rise and in the jungle we unite and dripping orange and black and white. Who day when we fight, live and die in these stripes. Now who gotta move like it on? Now who wanna move crossing on? Now who wanna move out on? If you got stripes, then you let the city know you rock 'em. Yeah, we got 'em. Yeah, we fought 'em. Like that black and orange on bottle. Bingo bottle. Never stop it till the beast.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the show. This is Bengals Talk with Strawberry Ice. I'm your host, the Iceman, Jeff Trunapole. And as always, I bring you sports from a West Side point of view right here in the great city of Cincinnati, Ohio, home of the back-to-back AFC North champion Cincinnati Bengals. Not to be a favorite. If you found the show, hit that like and subscribe button. Smash that thumbs up. You guys are awesome. I'm up to 2,124 subscribers. As always, I appreciate every single one of you guys. If you're watching on Facebook or Twitter and you have yet to subscribe to my channel, why not? Please do so. Please go to the YouTube channel, Sports with Strawberry Ice. Hit the subscription button. Hit the bell for notification. And every time I go live, because sometimes I go live whenever I feel like it, you'll be notified. Also, exclusively in the YouTube chat crew, we're doing super chats. So if you got a dying question you want to give my man Evan McPhillips, who is one of Malik Wright's right-hand mans, like, Malik put a tweet out earlier today, maybe we could try to get twist Evan's arm and find out what it means. Give me a super chat. I greatly appreciate it. And as always, I'm coming to you live from the Ice Cave. The Ice Cave is brought to you by T Properties. T Properties, quality housing for quality people. Check out the website at www.tpropertiesllc.com for all your rental property management needs and your rental needs. And you know what? I wear it every single day. Jackpot Joey, got the gear, got the hat, got the hoodies, got the flags. Get all of it at jackpotjoey9.com. Also, get the beer from Break Brewery. It's located on Hamilton Avenue, right in the middle of North College Hill. Go there, drink some award-winning, delicious beer, buy some cool gear and portions of the proceed. Go to the Joe Burrow Hunger Relief Fund and the Joe Burrow Foundation. So you're not only wearing cool stuff, drinking award-winning beer, you're also helping people out. I also got Betfred here, so sports betting is legal in Ohio. I don't think you can bet on the NFL Combine. Might have to ask Orange Arrow about that, but that would be something cool to come up with. Anyway, they got the sports betting there. Bet on the Bengals to go 17-0 this year. I'm predicting it. Screw the Chiefs. All right, guys, what's up to everybody in the chat? Stranger, what's going on? Pork Chop, Greg Graves, Tim, what is going on, guys? Welcome to the show. Let's get to my co-host. Me and him were on earlier today. We did a 5-round mock draft. He is Dale Altman from Bengals and Brews.
What is up, beautiful people?
What's going on, bro? Long time no see.
Not much, man. It's good. Yeah. It's a good day to be alive.
Always. I like being on this side of the ground. Let's get to Evan. What up, Evan?
How you guys doing? Appreciate you having me on.
No problem, man. It's been a little while. I had you on. I think it's been around this time last year. I think last time I had you on. It's been a minute since you've been on. So what you been up to? You got some new stuff going on?
Shoot, yeah, man. We've been doing a lot of stuff. Took a little bit of time there at the season at the start to enjoy and get my personal life settled, moving around and doing a bunch of different stuff. But we ended up linking up with my buddy Malik. And we're doing some work over there at the Right Way Sports Network right now, as I'm sure many of you know that we got the State of the Jungle live show with the Bengals. So we're talking usually every Wednesday about 7 p.m. We'll have a special combine little show coming for you guys live about 7 p.m. tomorrow, in fact. So feel free to tune into that. You can find it at the State of the Jungle and Sit Down YouTube page. You can find that via Malik's channel on Twitter. Obviously, we'll be retweeting a lot of links to that stuff and pumping it up. So it'd be awesome if any of you guys wanted to come and join us.
Exactly. So you can break it right here on the Strawberry Show what Malik meant by that cool GIF he put out later today, right? You can let us all know the secret.
I wish I wish I had the answer for you right now. When I go down to Indy, maybe I'll get him. Maybe I can get him a little drunk on steak and some good food, and then I can be like, "Hey, Malik, come on, just let us know. Let us know, man.
Yeah,
what is it? Just put it out there. Just say it for the people."
Exactly. So earlier today, me and Dale went on Bengals and Brews. We did a 5-round mock draft, and you're not going to believe. Literally everybody we wanted was here in the first round. Bijan Robinson, we had
Michael
Mayer.
The tight ends was there.
Both tackles, Dwan Jones and the kid from Tennessee, they all were there.
Yeah, Deontay Banks at corner. I was like, Kalijah Kancey at D tackle. I'm like, what the hell?
That's a tough one, isn't it? You got to get one of those Dungeon Master die from Dungeons and Dragons with all those options on there, man. You got 15, 20 different options to choose from. But shoot, 5-round mock draft. It sounds like you guys might be farther into the draft prep than I am. I mean, shoot, you guys I need to be interviewing you. You tell me what the Bengals are going to do. Come on.
Well, we had to pick it up Bijan. But
it's very deep into the draft.
Yeah,
sir.
I can see it,
Dale's deep into the draft during the season.
I have a start on next year already.
You probably do.
I honestly do.
I believe you. I believe you.
A lot of those underclassmen might end up going back too. You never know. So
I'm a draft nerd, man.
I respect it, man. Yeah, it's a grind, and it's especially after a long season, man. All the different games, all the different. I mean, you guys doing all your shows, man. Of course, like respect to you for not getting worn down, man, and keep on grinding.
Love it.
I don't do that many shows. It's only like I think it's literally like my 10th show I did today. I've done two live ones with Dale. I did 3 on Monday. I've done one every day.
That's trying to say I really do this. Come on, Evan.
I do this shit.
Exactly. All right, Evan. So where are you at as far as the Bengals draft here? Free agency. You and me talked a little, DMing each other. You know where I'm at as far as right tackle goes. Where are you at as far as the Bengals? What do they need to get in the first round? What do they need to get free agency? Where do you think they're heading?
So obviously it's tough being at 28 in the background of the first, right? Or being in that background area where you're kind of looking around and you're saying, in this range, these last 5-6 picks, often you're going to have a lot of trouble going in and saying, we need to hit this position. We need to do this, right? That's so much of that draft is out of your control to where you can kind of pick and choose a couple spots where you think people are going to go. But ultimately, if there's that run on tackles and you're sitting there and you painted yourself into a corner in free agency by not getting anybody who you feel comfortable with, at least going out there, assuming that Hakeem Adeniji not the answer. You want Carman at left, and then you have Lyle Collins, who's a giant question mark in his health right now. If you're painting yourself into that corner, you risk putting yourself in that point where you get the Billy Price pick again, where
that's it.
Maybe not. We don't know whether this guy is going to be successful or a bust, but again, it's about the process, right? We want to have the process, and reaching on a guy by 20 or 30 picks because he's the next best guy at the position you need is not the way to go. So you and I have talked a little bit about this in DMs, but obviously you'd like to see the Bengals go out there and grab a veteran tackle. And I know that they have a lot of cap space right now, but Jake Lisco and Andre Parada did a great job of kind of talking the other week about what it looks like in the cap situation if Joe Burrow and T. Higgins do get those extensions, right? And it starts to shrink significantly to where after paying everybody you need to, you might only have 10 or 12 million of some of the people are saying between 30 and 40 million dollars that you have. And obviously there's the whole cap versus cash thing. And when you have to put cash into escrow and how that can preclude you from signing other free agents because everybody wants cash, right? So if you're signing that Joe Burrow extension and you've got to put all that cash you have into escrow, and there's ways they can get around that by doing incentives and other things and doing rolling guarantees, but that's not what we're asking here. But the point of this is, if you have that limited kind of cap space you got to work with, then you have to be considering that you're going to be looking a lot more at that kind of like middle tier of, older tackles and what kind of values you can get there. And to the Bengals' credit, they have done an exceptional job of hitting that tier 2, tier 3, and sometimes dipping into tier 4, just finding those guys who are either miscast in their role or thrown away for injuries or any other reason and saying, we will give you that chance. And fortunately for the Bengals, they can afford to give that chance to people because they have, again, you don't want Adeniji starting every game, but you have that at least assurance that if something goes wrong, he can fill that spot for a couple games ideally, or La'el Collins may be healthy by the time you get 5, 6, 8, 10 weeks into the season, and maybe he's your best option. But the point is that they have options, which many teams don't. So it's not like they have to put all their eggs into one basket. So you can take a chance on a guy like a Jermaine Illuminori.
Yeah, Jermaine, man. We just call him Jermaine. Our guy Jermaine.
Yes, Jermaine.
It's Illuminori. I can say it. Illuminori.
Illuminati. We said Jermaine Illuminati.
The Illuminati, but he's Illuminori.
Right. So Jermaine, my main, is let's say he's getting about $4 or $5 million a year. They can afford that for a backup tackle to improve their depth there. That's a swing they can take on a guy who didn't really have a full starting job until just this last year.
Right.
Other teams may not feel comfortable giving him $8 or $10 million a year and saying, go start for us when you've only started 1 year and you're already 28 years old. The Bengals can take that swing. They can say, hey, we'll pay you $5, $6, $7 million or whatever they want to pay him, and say, we will give you every opportunity to come in and show that you are the best guy for this job. Now, he may be able to, maybe looking to cash in a little bit on his 1 year. And we know offensive line is a talent-starved position in the NFL. Everyone needs more good offensive linemen. So I don't think they'll have it.
Depth.
Yes, depth especially too. And you see it even with the Bengals. There's not many teams that can go more than 1 or 2 deep on their offensive line before it becomes an absolute emergency, right? So if we're looking at this, we're looking at other guys, maybe a Kelvin Beachum, who's a guy who's 33 already, but is still kicking and still playing well, to where you get that insurance, right?
Right.
But you also have that guy who maybe he takes a discount for a ring, or maybe he prioritizes you for that. So I'd be looking a lot more at that range as opposed to a Mike McGlinchey or a Jawaan Taylor, that these guys are probably going to get paid by those teams like the Bears, like the Falcons, who desperately need that kind of talent at just a start.
Right.
And then also are happy to overpay because they are so bereft of talent, so devoid of talent, and so flush with cap space that they can afford to say, hey, we can overpay you for 3 years and it won't even bother us, won't even feel in the slightest. So I think they compete in that tier 3, tier 4 for a right tackle and say, hey, everybody compete, fight it out. There's one spot. They kind of do the Joker breaking the pool stick meme and just drop it on the ground and say, hey, whoever's left standing, you're the guy. Right. So I think that's the way they go with that.
Got anything, Dale?
Well, I mean, I think Jermaine is probably cost-wise going to be that guy, but I seen earlier Schefter reported that the Jaguars are leaning toward franchise tagging Evan Ingram, and I'm like, so you're going to let Jawaan Taylor hit the open market? He's 25 years old. I know he's going to cost a lot more than Jermaine. Mm-hmm. For those, he's
25.
And he's played longer. You know, he's been a starter for years. It's not just a 1 year thing. So, but if they were going to take a swing on anybody in this free agency period, to me, it would be Jawaan Taylor at right tackle. Mm-hmm. I do kind of like the DeJuan Jones, the Darnell Wrights of the world, but not so much at 28. Like Jones, I'd be more comfortable with than the other ones, like Anton Harrison, but.
And that's the tricky part of it, right? Is you're saying, I probably feel okay with these guys. And, you know, if one of them goes and suddenly you're stuck picking one or the other, and maybe they're not. And then if you kind of rely on that, you're like, crap. And
Jones could easily go in the top 20. I mean, like, people don't see that because he's not rated there, but everyone that does these mock drafts, some of the bigger networks, you know, the draft networks, the Daniel Jeremiah's, these people, you see him go in the top 20 all the time. Mm-hmm. It's like somebody wants this massive ass right tackle with all these traits and tools.
Right.
So I could see him going before 28, and then it's like, That's why I'm like, man, even
Sign
like
fodder.
our main man, Jermaine, if we can bring him in at right tackle and know you have that, it
Right.
takes a lot of pressure off and you're not reaching for anything and it leaves that best player available.
Where you
open.
don't have to reach, and like you just
That's
say,
what
you
I'm
know,
hoping for.
Yeah, you don't have
Maybe
to
they
do
feel
Billy
good
Price.
about some other guy who might be there in the 3rd or the 4th round, like a
Right.
Logan Wilson type where they say, hey, we see something that we feel others don't, and we can get a value on this guy. That gives them that opportunity to say, hey, we can get this guy and he can just be good depth for us, and we can really give this guy time to develop over the next year or two and see what he can do.
Well, if they just hire Jeff and I, we kind of killed it in this 5-round mock draft that we keep going back to. So
You guys help out Duke Tobin, be the executive assistant.
So we went with Bijan Robinson because it was like, okay, him and Michael Mayer I have as the top rated guys at that point, so I'm going to stick with just how I have them graded.
Right.
So I'm like, we'll go with Bijan. It's crazy if he's there at 28 anyways because he's
I'd be shocked.
the closest thing to Saquon Barkley that's come out, in my
And
opinion.
maybe we don't even know what right tackle would be an ideal selection, or maybe we're just not quite aware. And what I mean by that is the combine's going on right now, right?
I'm watching
Some
it right
of these
now.
guys are going to come out, and if you see these, let's say there's an edge that you didn't think was going to go until the 4th or the 5th round, and suddenly he runs a sub 7.3 cone, and then you start going, maybe I need to go back and watch a little more tape on him. Or people see these different traits in this athleticism, and you know how coaches always say, I can coach this up, I can fix this. So
Right.
those athletic numbers are going to give them an excuse to do that. So as we go in the next 3, 4, 5 days, we're going to see a lot of shifting, not so much in the 1st round or the early part of the 2nd, but that, pick 50 to 150. We're going to see a lot of shifting there based on guys who test well and guys who don't, who test as below average athletes, who do those alarming things like run a 40 that's way lower than it should be, or their vertical is really low, which would be a sign of maybe they're not quite as explosive. So there's going to be a lot of shifting for that middle rounds, but I think we can definitely kind of look forward at that 1st round pick and have a decent idea of where things might fall, what the Bengals might be looking at. And you kind of mentioned it earlier that tight end, running back for Bijan, or corner even might be one of those spots that has a guy there, maybe edge, but with the way the guys are running right now, based on what I've seen on Twitter in the last 20
flying,
minutes,
dude.
I mean, dear God, they're running.
They're all 4 something.
sixes. I mean, yeah. So who knows if the edges that we think we're going to be there for the Bengals at 28 are even going to be there now. So I think they will be able to find value at one of these positions, whether that's corner, whether that's edge or interior defender. I think they'll find a way to get that value and take a BPA there at a position that will both be valuable to them in the immediate future, but also in terms of contract and cap for in the near future when you start having those extensions start hitting you.
Now, some of the guys, sorry,
Go ahead,
I was just
go
going
ahead,
to say some of the guys that are testing well are more of the 3-tech types, which I think the Bengals need more because, like, depth wise, especially once we lost Ogunjobi. So, like, Kancey, he's one of those guys that ran an insane number. My guy that, God, I'm going to butcher his name so bad, but Adebawore from
he was down like
Western
4-5,
4 in the 4-5s.
Yeah,
and
he was first off the blocks for
6'2", 280, 34-inch arms, where Kancey come in with like 30-inch arms. So.
He was 4.67, wasn't he? And then Nolan Smith just ran like a 4.45. I mean,
he's more a linebacker body, so he's more but he plays
outside
like
linebacker, rusher, right?
Like he would fit more with like a 3-4 team that's going to use him on like Pittsburgh Steelers or Ravens. I'm going to go ahead and
not
get it out
someone
there.
who's going with like a Bengals based defense.
You're speaking to existence.
Well, because it happens every year. Bengals Twitter falls in love with a guy or two.
Right.
Linderbaum last year, Jeff.
I love Linderbaum. We were almost had him.
And he went to the Ravens.
Little light on the sand in the pants.
And he went to the Ravens. So Nolan Smith, you might as well just go ahead and put him on one of your AFC North rivals because Bengals Twitter is crushing all over that man right now.
Anthony goes here. What about the 3-tech out of Pittsburgh? What's your thoughts?
That's Kalijah Kancey. Yeah. I mean, that's originally that could have been a guy who was there at for the Bengals, but I mean, if he's testing like he is right now, I mean, he might not be there. He may go 5 or 6 picks in front of them now, as opposed to being there on the board.
But the thing is, somebody's going to be there. We keep talking about these guys. All that guy's not going to be there. Somebody's going to be there. Someone's going to fall. Yeah.
4 quarterbacks are going.
Yeah.
Probably 3 or 4 receivers. Like when you start just adding all of them up, a good
I think
3 to 4 offensive line, a good 4 to 5 defensive linemen, 4 or 5 corner. When you start doing it that way, it's like someone's got to fall.
Yeah, I think the tight end is going to go earlier than people think too. I just my opinion because there's.
That's the big thing I say too, always about your needs, your team needs, right, and your holes that you're trying to fill. That's for free agency, right? The draft is to add good players. It's to just add good players. You just talked about it. We don't know how this is going to break, and we keep sitting there going, "This guy's testing well. He might not be there, and this guy will." But at the same time, it takes 2 teams to reach because they didn't, they thought they knew better, and another team or 2 that backed themselves into a corner, like we talked about, and suddenly you've got 4 prospects you didn't anticipate being there. And if you didn't do enough in free agency to at least patch your holes a little bit to give you that flexibility to pivot and say, wow, we really wanted a tight end because we got, a Hayden Hurst or we got one of the other free agent middle tier tight ends, right? If you get one of those and you say, hey, we were really planning on taking a Dalton Kincaid or a Michael Mayer, but wow, suddenly Kalijah Cansey is right there. And man, he was so great. And, you start playing that and it's like, well, if you back yourself into that corner, you might miss out on that player.
That's why I say it's so, I was telling you this before, it's so important that I think we got to sign a right tackle and we got to sign a tight end. I mean, I want Hayden Hurst back.
I want to put corner there too. I think they need a veteran corner, not necessarily to start, but someone that can be that 3rd or 4th guy that you need.
Right. So
doesn't just become Eli Apple again.
Possibly to replace Eli, but I mean,
I'm personally ready to move on. But that's
I am too.
Dude, I won't be shocked if we sign Eli again. I won't be surprised at all.
He played great. The play on the field, great to have as like your 4th quarter.
Yep.
Right.
But staff Twitter.
Please, for the love of God, you're doing no one any benefit.
Just staff Twitter. So, all right, with the contract situation, with what Duke Tobin said earlier this week about T. Higgins and his, I won't say cryptic, but how he's talking about Joe Mixon. I think Joe Mixon is either going to get cut or he's going to get restructured, and they're actually trying to sign T. Higgins from what it sounds like. We're out trading. Goddamn.
I didn't say this when Tregs was on, but as we're throwing that to Evan yesterday, I was thinking it. I'm like, and how many guys have we restructured?
Never. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we ever have. But I mean, this is the new Bengals, so I mean they could. I mean,
right. So we've seen them obviously go into free agency. We've seen them go and operate a little bit differently than they have in the past. So maybe that is the next frontier for them is restructuring these contracts in creative ways, right? But I wrote these quotes down that you referenced with Duke Tobin and T. Higgins and Joe Mixon, and I want to read them here because hearing them side by side really just paints such a drastically different picture, right? So Duke talking about T. Higgins. He was a guy we drafted who fits a role that we developed in a lot of ways, does it the right way, fits into our culture, is an exceptional football player. I envision him being a part of what we're doing going forward for a long time. That's the hope. T. Higgins is a valuable component of what we do. We drafted him for a reason. We developed him for a reason. He plays for a reason. He's under contract for us and gives us the best chance to be a successful football team. Now, when talking about Mixon and whether he was going to be on the team, I'm not going to predict the offseason because I don't have the answers. In the words of the great Kevin Malone, I don't know. He's been a good player for us. He's been a pretty key component for what we're doing. He goes on to say that you do what you can to keep a good player, but it doesn't always work out. I noticed a lot of present tense and talking about the future with T. Higgins and a lot of Joe Mixon has been.
Right.
Yeah.
He also went out of the way to say T. Higgins is under contract for us. He is playing for us. Dude, so is Joe. Joe Mixon is also under contract still. He is not
for $12 million.
But he did not I can't predict the future.
Right.
Basically, it's in saying
you got to restructure or you're getting cut.
Everything there was saying, hey, everything
saying
about T. Higgins was right. T. Higgins gives us the best chance to win. T. Higgins is part of our plan going forward. T. Higgins is under contract. And with Joe Mixon, he could have said a lot of that, but he didn't.
Right.
And so I think that tells you a lot, to where I originally said I would like to see, not I like to see him, but like it makes sense fiscally to cut Joe Mixon with the way things are going right now. I wouldn't have expected it because, like you said, older Bengals don't want to do that, don't want to have dead money for players that are not on the roster. But now, after these kind of comments, that I'm leaning towards he is. I lean towards that he is cut, and I'm surprised by it, but I'm also refreshed for the same reasons that you guys talked about, where you'd like to see them approach contracts a little bit differently. That's one way that they can continue to move into the new age, and I think Mixon could represent that.
And the savings are enough that the dead hit is not going to be, especially over the next 2 years, so that you're saving a lot of money over the next 2 years. I see Jeremy's comments on there too about team that keeps our word, player friendly. Okay, but I will say this: Willie Anderson, we cut him. We cut Willie Anderson, and he went to the Ravens. I will never forget that one, because I'm like, if they could cut a guy like Willie Anderson at the end of his career, they're not going to always be about that word. Right. And that was years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So they've already broken that. I know they typically like to keep those, but they will cut a guy. Now, the restructure, we just haven't seen it. Now, I would almost agree. Hey, and that's what Trag said. If you could get him to stay for 3 or 4 million,
right?
But I'm like,
12.
okay, who wants to go from 12 to 3 or 4?
Well, that's the thing. It's either that or you get cut. Or do you think anybody's going to pay Mixon 12?
No.
Right.
That's
so
the
that's
thing.
the thing. He's
got
to figure out.
He can get cut and still get a certain amount of his money, and then go and double dip and get signed elsewhere and get another percentage of his money. That's
Andre Parada actually pointed out a interesting kind of restructure, so to speak, to where it was basically a base deal that was 3 to 4 million, but it was laden with incentives,
right?
To where they were all unlikely to be earned incentives, which basically means you didn't achieve that the year prior. And if you do that and you just beat it by a little bit, it becomes deemed not likely to be achieved, and it doesn't count immediately against the cap, only if they actually achieve that. So that's one way that they could do it, but I feel like it's time to cut it, man. People know I've been appreciative of Mixon and what he could be, but eventually I don't feel like the talent was, or the potential was, fully realized. And it's been really kind of interesting to see that he has just consistently been one of the least elusive backs. He's consistently not created more space than what is blocked for him, constantly being brought down by a defender smaller than him or being caught when he has space in the open field. And if you look at elusive ratings for running backs, the median elusive rating of running backs for the last 5 years of the highest, most elusive backs who make defenders miss, break tackles, which is how running backs add value, right? Past what's blocked for you. It's what you create after by yourself, right? And he was consistently near the bottom. I mean, his elusive rating on us was like a 33. Between 30 and 40 is an average year for Mixon. And the top 5 backs are always in that 60 range, that 70 range. And you're talking about a guy, it's different if it's, a little bit worse, but that's what type of back you are, right? And it's when you are getting paid $12 million to be one of the least elusive backs, man, there's a lot of guys in college who are fast, who are athletic, and can hit a hole and get what's blocked.
You can get 2 of them in this draft.
That's what I'm saying. You can get a guy for cheap who can get you what's blocked. You want something outside of that, right?
And when you're not a run-heavy team, like you're a pass-heavy team.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Go ahead. I've got some.
But you guys go ahead. Marissa just got home from work, so I'm going to talk to her for about 5 or 10 minutes, and I'll be back, Jeff. So just put me out.
Sounds good. I'm actually glad he just brought up that that position, because that actually,
we're a pass-first team. Whether people like it or not, that's what we are.
They are, and the numbers were backing that up. Are the Bengals passed over expectation 9% of the time last season. So based on their down and distance, what they were looking at, they passed 9% more than was expected. And on their early down pass, or on their early downs, they passed at a 63.7% rate. So basically 2/3 of the time on those early downs, 1st and 10, 2nd and 8, they're throwing the ball. And that ranks second only behind Kansas City, who everybody thinks about as this air it out passing offense, right? So they have pivoted to that, to where the running back has become that other option, only in the sense of the check down and the pass blocking, to where having that running back for $12 million a year is just not, you're not getting enough value back from that. One, from the production of the player, and two, from the value of how often they're being involved in the offense. Now, if you can get a running back, like you guys talked about, Bijan Robinson, who was one of the most elusive running backs that PFF has ever seen, was also a pretty good receiver, though he didn't do it often, showed the ability to be a good receiver. And if you can just get this guy in those positions like Samaje Perine had, where they catch those checkdowns, and instead of going for 2 or 3 hard-fought yards, you're blowing through that defender, or you're making him miss.
He's pretty good at pass blocking too, which is I mean, I'm sorry, this offense, running backs, you got to have somebody who can pass block, especially on third down. That's a key thing to being a running back for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Right. And so while we're here real quick talking about running back, right, obviously Bijan is a very, very special running back prospect, kind of like Saquon, right?
Right.
He may not end up going in the top 10 just because of where people have come in terms of understanding running back value and the replaceability of the position, just because of it's the opposite of offensive tackle, right? There weren't enough offensive tackles. They're getting paid a bunch. Now there's too many running backs. There's a lot of guys, like we said, who are athletic, who can hit this hole and pick up what's blocked for them.
Right.
And so why generally a running back in the first round is not good. Again, this is maybe Bijan's a special case.
Unless he's a generational quarterback or running back, sorry.
Right. And that is so rare, right? This guy literally has to just, like you said, coming out, has to be the most elusive, the best runner, also be able to pass protect. You got to literally have like no questions about this guy. But generally, you're talking about a position that is injury prone with lots of wear and tear coming in, especially if college, because we've seen college like Derrick Henry. These guys get just 25, 30, 35 touches in a game sometimes, where they are just being just worn down for 2 or 3 or years if they're coming out in the draft. So on top of that, we look at the life expectancy of the position in the NFL, and we see they start to break down in the middle of that second contract between, age 26 and 28. So you almost don't want to make that investment and say, we will have to come back around and really kind of visit this and maybe pay this guy top dollar money. It's definitely a more cost-effective option to find other avenues in the draft, like the second rounders that are only going to cost you $2 million a year, or $1.5 million, or even some cases 800 or 900,000, compared to the guys who are going to pay $12 million a year or $10 million a year. They can give you similar or just a little bit better production. And the reason that's really important too is you get the 5th-year option, right, in the first round. When you're talking about surplus value for contracts, and this especially matters for the Bengals as they start to get into this future where cap space is narrow. They have needs in the immediate future, in the next season or two, at D-line, on the interior and the edge. They have cornerback as a premium position that they will need to address. They could definitely use a young, cheap third receiver that they're not paying $11 million to, like they do Tyler Boyd, right? These are all positions that if you hit on a rookie, you are paying them between $1.5 million to $5 million a year, And if you are looking at those as, what if this guy was a free agent, you're talking about a difference of up to $10 million, $20 million. And if the guy's really good, maybe more than that.
Right.
With a running back, if you hit on that pick, you might be saving yourself a difference of $4 or $6 or $8 million, which is just significantly less. So if you have 2 or 3 positions where you can get these guys cheap at these premium positions, that can mean $15 or $20 million in cap relief for you for 2 or 3 seasons, right? And the Bengals could absolutely use that, and that could be the difference between them. If we were in this scenario, let's say 2 years from now, we could go ahead and get Juwan Taylor. You've got all these guys everywhere at premium positions who are cheap, and you can go out and spend that money and get that one last piece that you feel you need. So it's not necessarily any running back prospect is bad or shouldn't be drafted there. It's, you definitely need to be thinking about in the future. This could be saving us a lot of money that could really help. And also the replaceability of the position. I mean, you just saw the Chiefs and the Bills both go, oh, we're a running back away. And they took Devin Singletary and they took Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And guess what? Now they took James Cook. The Bills were dissatisfied with him, and they got James Cook in the, third round, I believe?
I think so, yeah.
And they pivoted to him halfway through the season and said, Devin Singletary, we'll see you later. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire is not playing now because 7th-round pick Isaiah Pacheco has taken over. Mm-hmm. And we've seen undrafted Austin Eckler and, Ramondre Stevenson and all these guys who are coming from the 3rd and 4th rounds just be really good, elusive guys with contact balance. And it's you're paying these guys so much less to give you exactly what you want. It's at a position that is, like we talked about, not as valuable in the Bengals offense anymore. You're not this run team anymore. You're this shotgun passing offense. So
right.
It's definitely something that it would be wonderful to have a back who was more elusive than Mixon, but you want to pay the right price for it. You don't want to sink too much of your resources into trying to chase that dragon saying this is our last piece. Let's blow the money or the draft capital we have on this last piece because it's short-sighted and it also puts you in a precarious position the next year or two when you say, hey, we could have really used a quality edge or a quality corner guy. Man, can't really find one in the 4th and 5th rounds. It's a lot harder than finding one of those running backs. I maybe wish we would have had the guy on the roster already. So
even if Bijan
spiel on running backs.
So I was listening, if in your opinion, even if Bijan is there at 28, and say we signed a right tackle, and we say we signed a tight end and cornerback all in the free agency, that to me that's we have those positions signed already in free agency to even consider taking a running back. But if we did, would you still not take him there, or would you try to take somebody else?
I would not look at this and say on principle, I would not take him because I think I would. If you've got these holes addressed to where
that's the thing, right? You got to have those addressed.
Right. And also offensive line and corner, fortunately, are weakest link systems, right? And what we mean by that is if you have one of those weakest link systems, your top end talent, right? We look at Joe Thomas for Cleveland. We look at Laramie Tunsil for the Texans, right? If you have that top end talent, it doesn't just fix the rest of the line. They can attack the weak point, right? You can scheme up attacking a tackle. You can scheme up attacking a weak corner, right? You can go after them. They don't need to go break the bank on those positions. They can get, those C guys, those average guys, and having that average guy there can be affordable and also can fill all those positions so you can feel comfortable about taking a guy like Bijan. And that's what we talked about, right? Is you have this expectation of, oh, we might need this, we might need this. But if Bijan suddenly falls to 28 and you go, gosh, we'd love to take Bijan, but we didn't fill this spot or we didn't fill this spot.
Right.
Then
you can't.
Again, it's we talked about it earlier in terms of like a defensive end or a tackle, but even running back for this caliber of prospect, if you don't expect them to be there and suddenly you are you in a secure enough position in the rest of your roster to where you can afford to invest that type of draft capital, to invest those resources into something like that? And if they are, I absolutely would okay the pick.
Yeah, see, I'm along the same lines as you. I'm one that you don't take a running back in the first round unless he's a generational guy. And for the Bengals, we got to get these other spots fixed. Now, we talked about tight end. We talked about running back here. We did a little bit about DB.
Just go ahead and mention Michael Mayer. You do it every show.
I actually already talked about Michael Mayer. I was actually going to talk about DBs. So, because that is you touched on a little bit, Evan, about DBs here. Mm-hmm. What is your rankings of the DBs and who would be worth picking at 28 if one of them's there?
It was a quickie.
I love Devon Witherspoon, man. He's not going to be there. I mean, I say that now. Like,
look at the
now just to jinx it.
Hey, take three. Hey, take those top three off your board right now, Evan. Just forget about them. Get them out of your mind. Him, Gonzalez, and Joey Porter Jr. Those three are definitely probably going top 15.
I know. Yeah. So if you're taking those guys off, man, you're looking at maybe Cam Smith. You're talking about like a Keely Ringo if you feel confident about what he can be.
Traits, another traits guy that you
right, and that's the problem, right? We start getting out of the secure thing, and that's kind of like what these premium positions are. And while we talk about why they're so important to take in the early part of the first round as opposed to, linebacker or safety or, some of these less valuable positions, and it's because what you just talked about right there, right? as soon as you get those first 2 or 3 guys off the board who are good, confident prospects you feel good about, it's traits guys. It's a lot of projection, right? So you may be at the back end of the first round picking these corners, defensive ends, or what have you, and you have guys you really got to take almost a swing on, so to speak, versus in the second or third round, you might see an interior defensive lineman or a linebacker and say, we feel really good about what this guy can do right now. And it's just not always the case, and not very often the case with defensive ends or with tackles or corners. So like he said, you're betting a lot more on traits. I would be looking more at kind of the Cam Smith. I want
to throw a name at you on top of those two. It's a guy I have ranked 4th, but I think he very well could be there. Is Deonte Banks. He's 23, is a knock I know Joe Goodberry has on him, because he's a little older at the corner position. Whereas, like, I think Orengo's like 21 right now. So it's one of those things, but he is just more aggressive. He reminds me a little bit of Cam Taylor-Britt, of just, he's one of those physical dudes that don't mind to do a little bit of all the dirty work. And yeah, obviously we're huge fans of Cam Taylor-Britt.
Yeah, no, I think Banks got a little bit better kind of every season, which is kind of an encouraging trajectory to see. It's definitely that with the injury kind of brings him down the board a little bit. And like you said, the drawbacks that are with him. And again, this is what happens when you start to get to the start of the second round, is you get these kind of imperfect prospects, right? Which is what we have this combine for. Is this guy maybe faster than I gave him credit for? Does he have better fluidity and change of direction than I thought? Or the medical check. Does our medical staff say this is going to be a problem, right? The Raiders with Maurice Hurst. Everyone else said, no, we won't touch it. But they said,
4th round, yeah.
Right. What's the Tennessee offensive lineman? Trey Smith for the Kansas City.
Yeah.
Had blood clot issues. And their trainer came to them and said, hey, like, I think we can work with this and get a good regimen for him that is safe. But also
still.
And so again, maybe they come back and say, hey, Deonte, we like him a lot and his shoulder checks out, but other people red flagged it and suddenly you can get a value on him. So that's where those kind of edges are. But you're right. After those top 3 guys, it kind of drops off a little bit and you're kind of taking shots at like your different flavors. But what I would like to see is sometimes you can get those discounts on the slot corners, right? We know Mike Hilton is not going to be around for very long.
Clark Phillips, does that lead into Clark Phillips? I know he played outside at Utah, but they met with him. The Bengals met with him and Emmanuel Forbes.
I think that's telling, is because you have those guys, and I do like Forbes, and man, it's tough because like if
I like both of those guys, but I have them as 2nd round guys.
Right, and there's things like, if you asked me, gosh, if let's say Brian Branch falls to where the Bengals are picking. I know, right? And it's
Backer safety, you take him as a top 15 player.
Right. Yeah. And so that's a guy that you can move all over the field, and tell me that a guy like Lou Anarumo couldn't go crazy with that guy.
Lou Dini would love him.
It's big, and it would be especially big if they end up losing Jesse Bates or Von Bell or both, which we expect that Bates is out the door. And
Branch is Dax Hill on steroids.
That's the thing is, again, you don't want to go, oh, we already have that guy. We'd like to go, oh, we can have that guy on steroids, like you said.
That's why I think Branch probably goes before our pick, but that's
right.
Well, only I want to ask you, Travis brought this up on the show yesterday. He thinks Von Bell is going to get about $10 million.
That was kind of high for me
yesterday. I don't know if he's going to get. I mean, he's going to get.
I was like, if he's getting 10 or 11 million, I'm like, bro.
Yeah,
he's 28. I mean, right. I think maybe like 7 or 8.
That's what I said. Like, that's where I
said 10. I'm like, that blew my mind. I'm like 10. I'm like, I don't know if
because I asked him that game changing.
Well, I said, where would you put him? That would be like 2 or what do you think he gets? And he said 10 or 11, and I was like, bro, that wasn't even in my stratosphere of numbers. Like, I'm like, I know he's on $5 million now. I believe he deserves the raise from the $5 million per. But that's
a $5 million per jump. That's huge for 20.
Well, I was like, I was with you, Evan. I was like 7, 8. Like, I think it would be a good deal. He's a leader. He's everything you want, and I'm sure he wants to be here. He's played his best ball here too, and he's 28.
He's getting to the end here. He wants to win a damn ring. So that's where I think that's got to come into comparison too.
Because
Like,
I would think with a guy like him, 3 year, give him 3 years instead of like a 2-year deal. Give him another 3 like you did before. That's a good deal for a guy that's 28. 3 years and you give him 7 per. Here's 3 years, 21 million with a few million in sprinkled in with incentives.
Right. I think that's a good window. I like the contract that you proposed, and that's kind of what I would expect them to do is bring him back, especially with how valuable that position is to Lua Anarumo and also having that leadership. So I agree. I think safety and corner will be positions that maybe they attack in the early-ish to middle rounds and try and draft for the future a little bit. And I'm anxious to see what they do there. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, Von Bell is the big question mark, like, because you got to go out and get a safety then. Like, you just you can feel good about Tyson Anderson and he tested well. He was still
at that point, you might as well just re-sign Von Bell because he's got that familiarity. He's part of the culture, and that's the kind of answer I come back to.
All right, let's get to Anthony's question here. So, do either of you think Taylor Lewan will be a decent pickup? I have concerns, not sure what he's going to be asking for if he would come and top dollar.
He's going to come from the top.
Yeah.
So, I will go first, and I'll just say I don't like it at all. He's 32. He's coming off injury. Yeah, he was good in his day, but I don't see him as a clear upgrade even to Jonah Williams. And he's a left tackle, and Jonah's a left tackle. So that's where I'm at with it.
No, I agree. It's important to note that he's had 2 season-ending injuries in the last 3 seasons, that he is going to be 32 by the time the season rolls around. And the last healthy season that he did have, he and Jonah Williams were about the same player. So, I mean, it's –
take the older guy.
People are doing anything they can to get rid of Jonah. And guys,
I don't – look, Jonah
blows my mind. Let's go ahead and do this now because it blows my mind.
2 years ago, Evan, 2 years ago, best lineman we had.
Right.
And we're like, if we could just improve and make everything else average, we're really got something here.
Well, if you look at
why did we get rid of the guy that was the best one we like?
Well,
he didn't play well with 2 dislocated kneecaps, Dale. That's why he has no grit.
Well, this is what I keep saying, Evan. Like, look, when the offensive line was healthy and playing together, the offensive line was pretty damn good. That's why I keep trying to, and everybody keeps wanting to get rid of Jonah. I'm like,
they were first in rushing EPA
from
week 5 on when they changed their scheme, and they didn't have any injuries until just right at the end of the season.
Exactly.
I mean, they were rolling.
If anybody was the weakest link, it was Collins throughout the the season.
And he was hurt most of the year. Yeah.
That's the thing is if you give him all this time to get healthy.
That's my fear with him was same as the Taylor Lewan. Like, bro, you're getting a guy that's not been able to stay healthy. That's what Cowboys fans said. Hey, you guys can have Collins because he can't stay healthy. What happened? He couldn't fucking stay healthy. Like, he wasn't healthy in training camp. It was back. Then I mean, you can't predict the blowing out the knee, but
right.
The back
injuries and stuff was a problem. Is the clamoring for we need to go pay $16 million for Mike McGlinchey, who
also injured.
Look, good run blocker.
He's not better than Jonah,
protected by the Shanahan scheme with a lot of play action, a lot of quick game. And when you look at true pass sets where you actually take a full drop, then suddenly McGlinchey's terrible and Jonah is much better. So, like, again, it comes back to people are just bored of Jonah, I guess, or they look at his sack numbers and it's like, guys, like,
it's the sack numbers from last year, Evan. It's 100% what it is that people.
This is the thing. You want to get rid of Jonah and you want to cut Lyle Collins, but you also want a new right tackle and offensive line depth. So why are you cutting 2 tackles or trying to ship them away? Right. If you want to bench them and have them come off the bench, then bench them. But like Lyle Collins' contract is cost controlled and is
that's what I said.
Active.
And he's not going to be because he's injured, so you keep him around. So we have talked about this, Jack. I love Evan Orr. I love Evan. I love it. He gets us.
If it takes 8 weeks for him to get healthy and finally be a backup offensive lineman, cool.
Right. Yeah.
You're not paying him for those first 8 weeks.
And he played left guard with the Cowboys. So let's say you need somebody at left guard, and it's like, put your big ass at left guard.
Yep.
Just go be big. Go be big and be in the way.
Yeah, exactly. think
Fuck.
Drives me
know
nuts.
that.
I can't stand it, man.
I
People-
don't argue with anybody on this stuff because I know it doesn't do any good to argue, but I just let it. And then when you just let it all out,
You're like, yes, we knew we liked
I
Devin.
mean, no, I'm glad because I was doing the Will Ferrell, I think I'm taking crazy pills meme, with everybody just like, we need offensive linemen, but also get rid of Jonah and Lyle. I hate them both. And I'm like,
yeah.
I don't get that. I mean, the thing is, like Jonah, everybody. The problem is he got picked so high. I think that's the thing is he's never
Right.
lived up to All Pro or whatever. He's not. He's not. I'm not saying he's not great, but he's not bad. He's
Which
fine.
goes
Jonah
back to the
becomes a
arm
free
league
agent. He will
Yes.
get that 16 or 17 or 18 million dollars a year.
Didn't I
will
say
want
this like a week
competent
ago?
left
Yep.
tackle. Tell me you wouldn't have done that for a competent tackle at right tackle 3 or 4 years ago.
Well,
Yep.
I was asking people. I said, "Who the hell are you going to bring in to upgrade him?"
That's what I
said,
keep saying.
You're
Who?
either one. You're paying Orlando Brown $25 million, and sometimes
ain't
I'm not
happening.
even sure if he's an upgrade.
Worse on true pass sets in terms of efficiency. That he gave up more pressures than Jonah. Now tell me, you give up 10 sacks. Okay, that's fine, but you give up 30 pressures. You got a guy who gives up 60 pressures but 4 sacks. That is not better because one is 4
Right.
sacks and one is 10. Your quarterback is getting pressured or hit 3 times as much. Sure, sacks hurt. You know what else do? Penalties. Penalties hurt
Right.
almost as much as a sack does in terms of expected points added. And also getting your quarterback under pressure.
That's
That turns
that's
Tom
my
Brady
knock
into
with our
average. Go ahead,
our
I'm
main
sorry.
man Jermaine. That's my knock with him is he had the
Yeah.
third most penalties.
Penalties.
The Raiders right tackle. I'm like, because everything.
But
seems
is that
so
something
good.
that Frank Pollock sees and says, hey, I can clean that up?
I hope
Right.
so.
Well, you should be able to. Just quit being stupid.
But if Jonah was on this market, he slides in easily at left tackle too.
Oh,
And
yeah, he's right
he
there
is
with
a
the
top-
Dylan Taylor, Mike McGlinchey tier.
He is a top 15 to top 20 free agent in the entire class, which you know what that means, especially as an offensive lineman. When we started the show with Evan talking about the whole league needs offensive linemen, he is getting paid between 15 to 20 million per season easily on the free agent market this season. And we
he's
have
$12
him
million
for
this year?
That's what I was
12?
going to say. We have him for 11, 12, something like that this season. Shut the fuck up and let him play left tackle this year and just shut the fuck up about it.
Why don't we
I'm
let
sorry.
the man have his kneecaps intact for like a full season and then
That would be
decide?
nice.
He was great for 2 seasons and then he was solid this last season. I'm anticipating that when he has 2 regular kneecaps, he might go back to being pretty good.
That's
Just a
he got
thought.
that surgery too. He just got that surgery to hopefully stabilize the kneecaps or whatever. So this does because this happened to him before.
Mhm.
And I can't, dude. I just can't imagine your kneecap popping out and spinning all the way around. It's, it's just,
And then
he keep
and then playing an NFL game after that.
right. So like that's
Like,
just
people just they don't want to sell this guy. People wanted to just crucify Jermaine Gresham for sitting out that Cleveland game with a turf toe injury because saying he wasn't gritty enough. And Jonah Williams' kneecap twists around his leg and he just goes back out there to block Myles Garrett again. People are like, God, I hate this
Let's go.
guy. Yeah, like, come on, guys. I mean,
Yeah.
geez. He's an average tackle right now. Let's just be happy with having an average
and what
tackle.
that's what we said last year. Remember, all we want is an average offensive line. Average, which
all you
we
need.
when I keep trying to tell everybody this when the offensive line was, I mean, Lyle was never fully healthy, but when they were in there and they're all playing all 5 of them, we won 10 games in a row. Everybody, I mean, well, it was less than that because they got hurt, but still, we won 10 games in a row. Joe's won at least pressured quarterback, and we could run the ball. I mean that's what we had. That's what we all want. But the thing is, like I said, my concern with right tackle is L's not going to be ready at the beginning of the season. Sign Illuminor, and then if Lel is healthy, he doesn't have to rush back. If he's healthy and he's playing better than Illuminor, switch him out. It doesn't matter. You know, that's the thing, and that's the depth. And the thing is, that's what we need too. Is we need depth because the last 2 years, if we had any kind of depth on our offensive line, we win the freaking Super Bowl. I mean, Frank Pollard said it yesterday. He told Trags that
last
if
2 years.
huh?
Last 2 years.
yeah, last 2 years.
Last 2 years.
No, I just said
Oh, I thought you said last year.
no, last 2 years. Anyway, but Trags came out and said that Frank Pollard told him that Kappa was going to play in the Super Bowl. So was Jonah Williams. I'm telling you, I said this yesterday. If Kappa plays in that
I
AFC
thought Kappa
Championship game,
would. Kappa's an animal.
if Kappa plays in that AFC Championship game, we win that damn game. I'm telling you.
Chris Jones was just,
We need Kappa.
Chris Jones. He was Chris Jones. Like, pull him through and through, which you expect. But you just want to try to slow him down like they did the first meeting, and that did not happen.
No, and with Kappa, they could have slowed him down.
That's what I'm saying. Kappa's there. We slow him down. Anyway, Evan, you've been on for 54 minutes. I appreciate you, man. Tell everybody where they can follow you, what you got going on with Malik and the sit down and all the other shows you're doing.
Right. So, you can follow me on Twitter at @emcphil. Got a lot of stuff there. I'll post a lot of data and kind of comment on storylines and try to add a little bit of either support or a little bit of more truth to some of the wild arguments that don't make sense. Like we talked about with Jonah Williams and all the disdain for that, but you can find me there. And then we have a great show. It's a live show. We'd love for you guys to come by. It's usually Wednesdays at 7 p.m. It's called State of the Jungle. Myself and Malik and Logan Fulmer all sit down to discuss everything that's going on with the Bengals. So you can find that over at the Sit Down YouTube channel for the Right Way Sports Network. And we got a lot of good stuff coming out, hopefully in this offseason to keep you guys updated with draft and free agency stuff. So definitely tune in. We'd appreciate it.
If you ever need any special guests, you can always come to me and Dale.
Well, before he got off here, I wanted to go to Pork Chop's comment.
Oh, the Chubb.
Which this was my my excitement level for pick 28. I said yesterday I had a level that's called bust a nut, and then rock hard, and then half chub for my excitement level, which I think this should be universally accepted as for who you'd want your team to draft.
Can we do draft grades with this? I think that's what we need to do. I think that's all draft grades should be done.
It's all draft grades, exactly.
It sounds fantastic. So without listing the whole names, he's saying you because I'm like, man, I'm gonna say half chub for now, okay?
Hey,
I'm gonna say half chub.
Well, we'll come back around, all right?
Well, I gotta get you on the Bengals and Brews. I gotta get you a little sauced up on the Bengals and Brews show on the weekend.
You don't put out on the first date. I got to come around for a second one before
you got to get Evan a shotgun of beer first. He loves shotgun of beers.
So,
oh man, I don't know if I've shotgunned a beer since we did at that Bengals tailgate. To be
probably,
honest, I think that was probably the last time.
I don't shotgun beer.
Dude, I'm horrible at shotgun beers. I spill half of it.
But Evan, would love to have you on Bengals and Brews sometime.
Absolutely, man.
Partaking, drinking. You just have drinks, and we bullshit half the time.
Hey, Jeff and anybody at the tailgate knows I love walking around with my case of Bud Light, so that works out.
Well, you're uninvited.
You're a Miller guy.
This is a Miller guy. That's the only thing bad about Dale.
Yeah, I'll reach out, man. We'll have you on sometime, man. You've been awesome.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Ed, appreciate you, brother. Hooday.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right. So, see, I told you, Evan's badass. He knows his shit.
I'm glad you like this guy.
You like this guy. I like Evan. I get a high voice.
Evan's my friend.
Hi, Evan's my friend. We shotgun beers together.
Evan's my special friend.
Oh. I don't know what the hell that was.
Elmo done went full homosexual.
Oh, my God. Oh, Jesus. All right. Don't you guys show at 7 tonight? You got the Godfather on?
I got the Godfather. He's not coming on until 8 o'clock.
Oh, he's not coming until 8 now?
No, I got to hold the show down for an hour on my own.
Oh, no, sorry.
Why are you laughing, man?
Dude, you were on for like 40 seconds by yourself earlier today. You're like, hey, call me. Are you going to get on the show?
Hey, I'm the marathon man since I got off work, which I took to wrestle for like 30 seconds, and then it ended bad to the fucking get back on here.
You're a marathon man, but it took you 30 seconds?
No, she had to. I'm like, bro, you just went back to work this week. Why do you have this much of that? And that costs the money that we don't have. So now I'm doing like you took the money and you put it in the Jello pudding pop. You took it out of my bank account and you bought your marijuana with the money that was
with the gelatin money, the Jello money.
That money was reserved for the Jello pudding pops.
What the hell kind of pudding pops do you have out there? Marijuana ones. You got the Mary Jane.
Not quite sure. I'm not quite sure where this went.
I don't either.
Evan left. It went to
we just went nuts.
Like 2 minutes.
Oh, my God.
Lost our fucking minds.
Yeah, that happened. All right, man. Well, I'm gonna go get some dinner, finish watching this, and then I'm gonna watch you struggle talking to yourself at 8 o'clock.
Struggle to talk, probably.
Probably, yes.
I've got Yeg.
Oh God.
Hold on. How am I gonna entertain myself for half an hour before the show starts?
I tuned in to Bengals and Brewers. This is gonna be pretty interesting.
You're gonna be tuning into
Bengals and Brewers is Dale Oatman.
Welcome to the show. I forgot the name of it. I don't know the name of the show.
Oh God. Well, you have fun. Pace yourself. See ya. Oh my God. Oh, dude, I think Bengals and Brewers is going to be very, very interesting. So you might want to make sure you check that out. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you go to the Bengals and Brewers account and subscribe. It's been a wild show. Anthony, AC, God love you. I'm praying for you, brother. Go hang out with Dale. It's going to be fun. It's going to be very, very interesting. All right, guys, let's get to the Facebook groups that let me live stream. And I appreciate every single one of them. They are Houday Nation, Houday Legion, Bearcat Ruckus, Radical Reds, the Ohio State Bucknuts, the Ice Bar, and then you can follow me on all my social media platforms, all under Sports with Strawberry Ice. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Twitter handle is at Jeff A. Trenopole. TikTok is at Iceman90. I'll be pulling the sound off later on tonight, putting it on the podcast. It's on BeanPod, Apple iTunes, Spotify, Google, Stitcher Play, pretty much wherever you get your podcast. Please make sure you rate, like, and review. Give me a 5-star review. Leave a comment so more Cincinnati fans can find my podcast. YouTubers, we're at 2,124. You guys are awesome. I appreciate every single one of you guys. If you're watching the show right now at the end, while I'm doing all this, you guys are legendary because I'm just going through my spiel. But if you're watching on Facebook or Twitter and you haven't subscribed, please go to the YouTube channel, Bengals Talk with Strawberry Ice. Hit the subscription button, hit the bell for notification. And when I go live, you'll be notified because I'm 99% sure. I'm just going to keep putting it out there. I won't try to speak it into fruition. Trenton Irwin, Bengals wide receiver, said he was going to be on my show next Wednesday. I don't know what time yet. I'm still working on that. So that's why I say subscribe. When I go live, you'll be notified. Anyway, you guys go watch Bengals and Brewers. I'll see you tomorrow. Who do I have on? I got, let's see, I'm going to count it real quick. Tomorrow, I have, who do I have on? Oh, yeah, Just Eric. There you go, my boy. Just Eric. He is from the Cincinnati podcast, and he does a ton of the spaces on Twitter. So Just Eric will be joining Friday. It's been a lot of fun. Go watch the draft. Have some fun. See you guys tomorrow. That's just sports, baby. See ya!